The most triggering comedy of the year. Join me.
This is the way the world is now. My 8-year-old daughter told me all about it.
So a guy can become a girl with no physical changes at all.
Oh, that's called gender fluid.
To play
Lady Balders. Man up.
like a girl.
That's right. I'm with her.
From hero
I love being a girl.
to shero.
We could dominate every woman's sport.
Day one of being a girl athlete, given up on parallel parking twice, reread Sense and Sensibility, and started washing down benzodiazepines with rosé. I love being a girl. How'd I do, ladies?
Men in a dress, men in wigs is funny, and then beating up girls is funny. That'll make this movie fun for 2 hours, right?
Technical, and you shut the up, transphobic mother.
The last thing I need is another abortion this year.
Stacy Santiago O'Brien is my slave name.
Okay.
Unless you've cried 3 times in the same day from the pain of menstrual cramps, and menstrual cramps, and menstrual cramps.
High school boys can run faster than world record female sprinters.
I see you.
Okay, boomer.
Lady Ballers is the new film from the Daily Wire Plus, which is the world's streaming service. It's a comedy that's not funny. Although there was one funny thing. One of the actors in the film, after the premiere, was arrested for being a January 6th insurrectionist. Like right after the premiere, I guess maybe they should have blurred his face in the film. But they really needed him though, because he played the character Deuce Johnson. So, poop dick, I think. Ben Shapiro said he wanted to do it as a documentary, like have a bunch of dudes pretend to be trans women and go like beat up on women in women's leagues. And then it turns out that they couldn't, or they would have had to like take a shitload of hormones for like a year or whatever. And none of the actors wanted to do that, thus disproving the very premise of the film that it's super easy for men to just be like, I'm a trans woman and now I beat women at sports. Like they couldn't do it. Neat.
Now, to be fair, I think I'd actually suggested to the Crane Boys that they do this as a doc. You guys should like go try out for a bunch of ladies' leagues, and that became not possible because, as it turns out, most ladies' leagues don't allow in actual men, and they weren't willing to go the full distance in terms of what it would require.
Nobody's cutting their dicks off, buddy.
I wish they would have made that documentary. Like, I would have loved to have watched Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boering and these stupid people start taking like, hormones and start growing man boobs and then get their asses kicked at basketball by women because, like, they're not good at basketball. Just because you're playing women doesn't mean you're gonna beat them. I know. I try to beat women all the time at sex, and they always beat me. But sadly, they retreated into their favorite form of owning the libs, which is fiction.
Slay girl, you go girl.
It's a sports movie that's barely about sports. Its main draw is that it's made by the Daily Wire, and it's starring and written and directed by people from the Daily Wire who are mostly like political talky people. It's like, imagine if Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity, instead of just like doing their talking points every night, instead they're like, we're gonna make like TikTok sketch videos. Like, this would be great. The film's writer, director, and star is Jeremy Boering. This is a boring film.
Dudes dressing like chicks is funny.
Because it's incongruous and silly.
Thank you. That's right.
So I did more research, and it turns out that these 3 dudes are straight up 100% slam dunk delusional.
Look, I've been trying to get into women's leagues for multiple years now. If someone's serious about this, all right, you find your best 3. I don't care what planet you go to. It can be wherever you want to go. Your best 3 girls, WNBA, doesn't matter. You get them, and we'll play us 3, and you can put as much money.
Call it straight up.
Yeah. Now, maybe if these 3 dudes were like college basketball players who just weren't quite up to NBA standards or something, you know, maybe they could take on some WNBA, maybe some college basketball girls, and maybe win as underdogs is possible. But these dudes did not play college basketball, and they didn't just say they would win.
Call it straight up, and I guarantee you they won't score more than 2 points.
They won't score more than 2 points.
Because they'd score 100? I don't know. How many points do you score in a 3-on-3 game? How long does a 3-on-3 game last?
69 minutes.
69 minutes. I think they're going to score 2 points in that. These bitches are my dream team of 3-on-3 women's basketball. Ben Shapiro, I have to give credit to Ben Shapiro now. He's the smartest person in this room.
Because I am willing to put up any amount of money that the three of you versus any JV girls team in America would win. And again, that's not because I have respect for your outside shooting skills. That's just because...
He's like, how about high school girls JV? You guys could beat any high school girls JV team. And they're like, yeah, we could also be the WNBA All-Star team. So Ben Shapiro, not delusional. In this one circumstance, he's the smartest guy in this fucking room.
It's so important that our team at the very beginning, they win a high school state championship, right? Like they're elite basketball players, at least on the high school level. So it sort of does away with this. You can tell which critics didn't even watch the movie because it's not just a random bunch of guys who never played basketball who think that then they could make the Olympics.
So were these dudes in real life elite state champion basketball players? So I had to do research, God damn it, on Christmas. So I looked into it on fucking Christmas. Not one of these dudes even played high school basketball, according to my Googling. Now, to be fair, David Cohn is 6'7", and he was a backup quarterback at the University of Michigan. So, like, that's legit college sports, all right? And he's 6'7". He's probably pretty good at basketball. I don't know. As far as I can tell, though, I could not find any record of him playing high school basketball. It's not mentioned, like, oh, he, by the way, was a state champion. He was maybe just so focused on playing quarterback and then getting recruited at Michigan that he couldn't play. Although, one Travis Kelce was the quarterback, getting recruited to play quarterback at a D1 school, and also played basketball. So Travis Kelce had time to do that. Why didn't you little bitch? But he's not the whole in this 3-on-3 team of man supremacy. There's Blaine Crane and Jake Crane. Blaine is 6'4". All right, he's kind of tall. He was recruited to play football at Western Colorado University, which is a school of 2,400 students. So like high school, basically. And he is on the signing day roster and then never has any stats and doesn't show up on any rosters after that. So I think he was recruited and then couldn't make the team or got cut, quit. To say he's a college athlete is like saying that I went to Juilliard because I walked through it once. He couldn't be wide receiver 13 at a school of 2,400 students that would go on to lose to New Mexico Highlands University. But then you get to the real gaping glory hole in this 3-on-3 where you cram Brittany Griner's balls through the glory hole in this matchup. Does this make sense? Jake Crane. He's 6'1". His claim to fame is he spent 1 year on the bench at the University of South Alabama's baseball team. And then that was it. So let's just say I would be interested in seeing this matchup where 6'1" Jake Crane, who's 33 and spends his days talking about sports and, not playing basketball all the time, up against Brittany Griner, 6'9", and then I'm going to put Liz Cambridge, 6'9", and Han Ju, 6'10". There's my WNBA dream team. I think they'll have a chance at scoring 2 points in this matchup. So I say we get this documentary going, boys, and I don't think you need to take any hormones, and I don't think you need to chop your dicks off or anything. Just start tweeting at Brittany Griner and anybody in the WNBA. Show up to the WNBA All-Star game and just challenge them to 3-on-3. I guarantee you, these ladies would be plenty motivated to be like, just get on the court and let's do this. You don't gotta take hormones for that.
They won't score more than 2 points.
It's basically Juwanna Mann 20 years later, just as not funny, but with worse production values and not real actors. Ben Shapiro thinks he's got a gotcha.
How dare you compare Lady Ballers, a movie about beautiful trans women, with Juwanna Mann, a movie about a man pretending to be a woman. Your bigotry is horrifying. And it's so true, which shows that they know the thing, right? Because when you guys compare our movie to Juwanna Mann, what are you saying about trans women in sports? What are you actually saying about trans women in sports?
Also, yes, if you look back 20 years to a time before Barack Obama was president, there were comedies.
So Ben is implying that this film, Lady Ballers, is about trans women, that the characters are trans women, and that comparing it to Juwanna Mann is the triggered libs are accidentally saying that trans women are just like Juwanna Mann and are pretending to be women but are really men. What the fuck are you talking about? Did you see the movie? You're in the movie and you're promoting it nonstop. Your movie is about pretending. These are men pretending to be trans women, not trans women. They're pretending so that they can compete in sports and win money. Lady Ballers is about a loser basketball coach getting together the dudes from the high school basketball team who are now like 33-year-old losers. He doesn't even tell them they're gonna be competing as women. He's just like assembling the team. Hey, we can win some money. Only later.
You haven't told them.
Told us what?
Have you lost your mind? I ain't no chick, bro. I'd cut my dick off for you, coach.
Aren't we just using our innate strength and speed to wail on a bunch of girls in a competition where we wouldn't stand a chance against other men? None.
So Ben, they are not trans women. They are men pretending to be trans women. Ben Shapiro loves to do this. He does this snarky I gotcha thing where I outsmarted you using your own double standard or something. He did it with the Barbie movie, where in Barbie at the end, Barbie's like, I'm gonna go to the gynecologist because like now she's a woman. And Ben said that was transphobic because having a vagina isn't the necessary fact for being a woman because a woman can have a penis. The left says blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but the Barbie movie isn't saying that you have to have a vagina. Like, what are you doing?
Nobody's cutting their dicks off, buddy.
This is how I know that Ben Shapiro isn't just like a person I disagree with but maybe is smart or clever, but we just happen to disagree on stuff. No, he's an idiot. He really is. He says really dumb things and he thinks this is a gotcha.
I know. It's hot outside. You know what I can do about that? 0 things. Thank God we have this thing called air conditioning. It's awesome.
I made fun of him for not understanding the plot of Barbie, okay? Bro, he doesn't understand the plot of the film he's in and promoting. So.
Guys, I'm getting paid like $50 to be here. I don't care.
Also, he said Obama killed comedies. I don't know Obama did that. Obama did a lot of stuff.
I stayed the same and the world changed.
I don't want to come into this ready to just hate it and not give it any chance. Like, there's no point in me doing that if I'm just gonna hate it regardless. I have a little self-respect, a little reverence for the art of film criticism. So I personally don't want to go look at reviews and then discover that all the reviews are just horribly biased, unashamed nonsense. I mean, that's not cool either. And we'll see why in a minute. But unlike the makers of this film, I don't really want to just punch down all the time. I'm not in the business of propaganda. I run this channel because I want to entertain, maybe give you a little bit different perspective and see what I think. Or maybe we get to watch porn actors try to be real actors, and that could be funny. See upcoming video. You want to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show porn parody with the porn cut out and then get drunk and watch that? Because I'm doing that in 2 days with some friends. So maybe tune in for that because this garbage isn't going to be entertaining.
Like and subscribe, bitch.
So here's where you say, oh no, here's the atheist professor propagandizing into the tubes, the woke triggered lib. I fundamentally agree with the premise of this film. I feel icky saying it, but it's true. I believe that as long as we have gendered sports, if we're gonna separate men's and women's sports, trans women who do have a biological advantage shouldn't get to compete in major competitions in the Olympics, WNBA, and things like that. I don't care about the sanctity of girls' 7th grade soccer or the middle school swim meet. I don't give a fuck. So if I fundamentally agree that we shouldn't have trans women with a biological advantage competing in meaningful, important competitions like the Olympics, why do I feel icky having to say it and agree with you? It's because this movie is not about that. It's about bullying trans people.
Without a doubt. Well, I think we just need to bring back bullying. To be honest, none of people gets bullied these days.
Well, it's positivity.
This is what happens.
It's
when
positivity.
It's
bullying.
cis and trans, and I woke up and I'm a dog today.
Once again, Ben, the contradictories and stupidity is endless.
Have you seen the reaction on social? We're heroes.
I did a little journalism. I believe the Daily Wire bots, or this is in some way gaming the Rotten Tomatoes score system. They're review bombing, buying bots, paying people. Maybe they're just paying a bunch of interns to do it. I don't know. It's possible that they are just really, really good at like motivating their audience to go review bomb things. Like that's possible. That's still gaming it though, so don't sue me. So I mean, like the audience score is gonna be high because who the fuck has seen it? The only people who watch it are people who subscribe to the Daily Wire Plus, the worst streaming service in existence, though I've seen it. But let's look at the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 60%. That's a fresh rating. That's the lowest score you can get. That's D's get degrees right there, which means it has 3 positive reviews out of 5. It's the lowest number of reviews possible to have a 60%. That's great. So let's look at these positive reviews. Number 1 is from Christian Toto, who writes for the website HollywoodInToto.com. I found a factual error in his review. He says that they reassemble the college basketball squad to compete against women. and it's high school.
They win a high school state championship. You can tell which critics didn't even watch the movie because it's not just a random bunch of guys.
You're playing like JV girls out there. And for the record, your mother is not a catch.
And then like the main character, Jeremy Boering, he's playing like a high school coach who then gets like fired.
And play like this could be the beginning. Damn it, Kevin, could you put the cell phone down, buddy, please? Dwayne.
So maybe he didn't watch it or didn't pay attention and was just gonna write a positive review regardless. Or maybe it's a typo, okay, it's possible. And then he also didn't notice it in the edit, okay. But if you wanna go all Pepe Sylvia, why would I suggest a person would write a positive review of a movie they didn't see or didn't pay attention to very much? Well, maybe because he works for the Daily Wire. Oh, he's not writing the review on dailywire.com, but he is a contributor to the Daily Wire. And he used to work for Breitbart. His articles for the Daily Wire are all just sucking off like Rob Schneider and Roseanne. Just any comedian who triggers the libs, he's like articles about how great they are. Just, he's in the culture war. He's fighting a culture war against the libs. Oh, and let's look at what else he's rated on Rotten Tomatoes. He gave Black Panther, guess if it was fresh or rotten. That's right, rotten. How about Barbie? Rotten, okay. All right, positive review number 2. That was Matthew Pejkovic. I don't know, Matt gave this film a fresh rating. He has recently given rotten ratings to Napoleon, to The Killer, which was directed by auteur David Fincher, one of the greatest living directors that we have. His latest film, he didn't like it, that was rotten. Barbie, rotten. Here's a quote from his Barbie review. Look out for the feminazi Barbie range in stores soon. Feminazi, he used that phrase. Also, feminist-driven male bashing. He's a major film reviewer. His YouTube video review of David Fincher's The Killer has 8 views. Also on LinkedIn, I discovered that he made a post asking people to subscribe to his YouTube channel, and 2 people responded, one of whom was Christian Toto, who works for the Daily Wire. Okay, so they apparently know each other on LinkedIn. In his glowing review of Lady Ballers, he said, quote, at almost 120 minutes, Lady Ballers could have easily cut 30 minutes or so from its runtime. Too many repetitive gags, confusing subplots, and distracting cameos. Looking at you, Ted Cruz. Distract rather than enhance the film's main narrative while also creating problems with pace. Fresh rating. Our third positive review comes from Benjamin Franz. He has 68 movie reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. So how many of his 68 are fresh? And how many are rotten? All 68 are fresh. He's never getting a rotten rating on anything. So like, dude, why are you a movie reviewer if you just say everything's good? What is the point? He leaves scores out of a 10-point system, except every single one is at least a 7 out of 10. Like that's the lowest score he's ever given is a 7 out of 10. So he gave this the lowest score he's ever given on his website. Fresh rating. All right, so from one of the honest reviews, so the, negative ones, John Serba wrote, I will say Lady Ballers is funny on occasion, but only unintentionally. Say when it purports to be defending the purity of women's sports, but stages a scene in which a women's basketball game is played in an empty arena because nobody likes it, and depicts flabby aging men as infinitely superior athletes to women in their sporting prime, and ultimately considers female athletes as little more than things to be cruelly mocked. You have to admire such an elaborate self-own, which can't be executed by just any idiot. So back to the user ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, there are 5,000 user ratings. It came out 12 days ago on one of the least popular streaming sites in existence. So is 5,000 user reviews a lot, or is that reflective of the fact that no one has seen it? Well, the Taylor Swift concert movie has 2,500 audience reviews. But I mean, Swifties aren't like online a lot, right? The Killer, which was directed by one of our greatest living directors, an auteur of our time, his film came out on streaming, straight to streaming on Netflix. Daily Wire or Netflix, which one's got more subs? I'm not sure. So when the director of Aliens 3 and Panic Room puts out a new film on Netflix, how many user reviews does it have? Well, it has 1,000. So 5 times as many people have seen Lady Ballers on Daily Wire Plus. Mission Impossible 7, 8, whatever that one was, that came out this summer. It's made $500 million. Has how many audience reviews? 5,000. Same number as the Daily Wire Plus movie that's been out for 12 days. Daily Wire is definitely not manipulating Rotten Tomatoes in any way. Not with bots, not with interns, nothing like that. By my math, Mission Impossible 6, 7, whatever, sold 69 million tickets. So let's round down. Let's say 60 million people saw it in the theaters. I think it's probably available streaming somewhere or you can rent it. I don't know. And then 5,000 have decided to go leave a Rotten Tomatoes review. That means that 1 in 12,000 people who saw it left a review. The Super Mario movie, I know, sold 168 million tickets in the theaters. Has 10,000 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's about 1 in 17,000 people who saw the movie left a review on Rotten Tomatoes. Oppenheimer has 10,000 reviews, 100 million tickets. So if you saw Oppenheimer, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance you then went to Rotten Tomatoes to leave a review. I don't think we know the actual number of subscribers Daily Wire Plus has. They said about a year ago that they hit the 1 million subscriber mark. So maybe it's 1.5 million. Maybe it's gone down since then, who knows? Because you get it and then realize there's like barely anything on it and you get it for 3 months and then quit because you watched all the stuff. So we don't know the exact number, but let's be generous. Let's say it's 1.5 million. The film came out December 1st. On December 3rd, 48 hours later, it's at 2,500 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. On December 7th, it's at 5,000. So let's say 1.5 million subscribers. Let's say that half of them watched this movie in the first week, which I think is generous. I don't think you're getting 50% of people, but okay. That would mean that 1 in 150 that saw it went and left a review. Real movie ratios, 1 in 10,000, 1 in 12,000, 1 in 17,000, 1 in 150. So let's be a little bit less generous. Maybe it's not 1.5 million, maybe it's 1.2 million subscribers. And let's say that only 20% of them watched it within the first week. That would mean that 1 in 48 of them watched a movie and then went and left a review on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, real movies, 1 in 10,000, 1 in 17,000. This movie, 1 in 50. So if you think those numbers check out, I've got a real estate opportunity in the Glengarry Estates that I would like to talk to you about.
Okay, boomer.
But then next thing you do, after you maybe pay for bots, is then you write a news story. You pump out a news story about how you're getting great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and there's all these reviews, there's so many people. So you maybe just paid for a bunch of bots to leave reviews and then pumped out a news story being like, look at all the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. On IMDb, Lady Ballers has 8.7 thousand ratings. The Killer, the David Fincher, who's a genius, his film, also released straight to streaming recently, has 1,000 user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Lady Ballers has 5,000 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. All right, so it seems like The Killer should have 1/5 the number of IMDb scores. If these correlate, right? Lady Ballers has 8.7 thousand reviews on IMDb. So The Killer should have about 2,000 ratings on IMDb. It has 134,000 reviews on IMDb. So we're only off by a factor of 67 times, which would make sense if they're paying bots or manipulating people or whatever, allegedly, only to Rotten Tomatoes and they didn't bother with IMDb. Does that sound more plausible to you? There's another film recently came out straight to streaming called May December. It's a real movie. I hadn't heard about it, but it's a real movie. It went straight to Netflix on December 1st, the same day Lady Ballers came out, right? Came out same day as Lady Ballers, came out straight to streaming just like it. Has real actors like Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. May December has 500 audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Lady Ballers has 10 times as many Rotten Tomatoes reviews. So Lady Ballers, 8.7 thousand reviews on IMDb, means that May December should have about 870 IMDb ratings. So the number we're looking for is 870. What is it really? 17,000. Okay, so we're off by a factor of 20. On Letterboxd, another one of these websites that maybe they didn't pay their bots for, May December has been watched by 194,000 users. Lady Ballers, 5 times as many Rotten Tomatoes reviews, should then have about 1 million watchers on Letterboxd. 1 million's the number we're looking for. It has 1,800. May December is 100 times more popular on Letterboxd. It's 20 times more popular on IMDb. The Killer has nearly 500,000 views on Letterboxd. It's 250 times more popular than Lady Ballers. But on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 1/5 as popular. All right, we're looking at a discrepancy of 1,000 times. These numbers don't add up unless you think, oh, that Rotten Tomatoes audience number is bullshit. Okay. I mean, do these Rotten Tomatoes user reviews look legit to you? No, wait, not those. Not that one. These over here. These. Do these look legit? Family friendly? What the f? You mean the part where the jokes about the threesomes or the jokes about the abortions? Very family friendly film.
The last thing I need is another abortion this year.
Oh, and Mary Margaret showed me her penis.
So let's talk about propaganda. I've covered this enough before with my review of the Daily Wire film about a mass shooting in a high school and how cool that would be. Conservatives are fighting the culture war, right? And they'll talk endlessly about how Hollywood is bullshit because it's trying to brainwash you and it's propaganda. So we just want movies that aren't propaganda and just tell a good story. Not this ideological crap, Hollywood. So anyway, here's our extremely ideological crap. No Hollywood propaganda I've seen can touch the level of ideological propaganda that's the shit that they make. Like, those liberals suck because they try to cram a message down your throat.
Now put your tongue down my throat. 70% of all people in prison come from broken families. She's twice as likely to do drugs, twice as likely to drop out of school, 4 times as likely to have trouble fitting in, 3 times as likely to end up in therapy, twice as likely to commit suicide, 50% more likely to have health problems.
She's a journalist. You can't believe anything she says. What is that?
Bud Light. I'm sponsored now.
I hear Disney's gonna make the new Snow White a neurodivergent lesbian.
And the way they sell this movie, the main like selling point is like, it's the most lib triggering comedy ever, as if triggering libs is what makes it good or is what makes it funny. Which is why the writing is basically a series of, wouldn't it trigger the libs if we did this? And then scenes are like, a guy does a thing to trigger libs and then like does Jim face at the camera. Like, oh no, we didn't. They act like they don't get triggered. Like the left gets triggered, but the right doesn't. As if the libs are snowflakes. But remember, Bill Burr's wife flipped off Trump, and she's classless and it's terrible, and we're gonna make all this news about it.
When you see this lady flipping off Donald Trump, a lot of us on the right are like, what a horse's ass. Like, really? He's at a UFC fight. Seriously? Like, really?
Flip off the former disgraced president? Oh my God, what? Meanwhile, Let's Go Brandon, that's just the most hilarious thing. The left can't even handle it. They're so triggered. Meanwhile, Ben Shapiro is triggered by the Barbie movie and he's burning Barbies in a parking lot. But we're the snowflakes.
Said, let's go Brandon, which is just horrific. The pilot signed off his greeting over the public address system with the phrase, to audible gasps from some passengers. When you see this lady flipping off Donald Trump, a lot of us on the right are like, what a horse's ass.
So let's get to the film. It's not funny. There's only so much you can say in a review of a comedy other than I did not laugh once. I promise you, you have to just take me at my word that I did not go in saying I will not laugh. This is never gonna be funny.
Seriously? Like, really?
I gave it a chance. I did give it a little bit of a chance. I did not laugh out loud once. I watched Juwanna Mann after, and I think I chuckled slightly, like twice, and I didn't like laugh out loud.
Jeffries, Mr. Jeffries, can I please have your autograph? A stamp?
Don't get me wrong though, there were things that I thought like could be funny. And I was a little bit surprised, pleasantly, that like they were trying to do some comedy that wasn't just entirely fuck trans people. But they don't know how to write jokes. They don't know how to stick a landing on anything. They don't really know how to write scenes. It was like screenwriting, not 101, screenwriting 201 stuff, like how to like really make a scene. Here it's just like a scene sort of, and then random shit happens, and then that random weird stuff is supposed to be funny. And then you move on to the next scene.
Thanks, babe.
All right, so here's something I did like. There are these brothers on the like high school basketball team, and then they pretend to be translator, that are twins but have different dads because they are conceived in like a gangbang situation.
You can kiss your chances with Rebecca Vanderkamp goodbye.
Damn! She isn't into you! No! She's into you!
Same mom, same time, different dads.
Sounds hot.
So they have kind of a funny dynamic. They're slimy car salesmen, okay. And then when they become famous for being trans women athletes, there's a lady that's into them both. And then there's jokes about like, oh, I hooked up with her. Wait, I hooked up with her too. Do you guys see where this is going yet? Do you see where it's going?
Played a little one-on-one with her last night, shirts and skin style. Kept me up like half the night.
What?
Monica kept me up half the night. Which half?
They're both plowing the same girl, and then later that girl is like, I'm pregnant. And they're like, wait, which one of us is the father? Do you guys know the punchline yet? So like, okay, I've never seen that before in a comedy, and that is like a funny enough concept, I suppose. But it's not funny because they don't know how to stick the landing, and you see this punchline of like, oh, and then, oh, so they're both fucking the same girl. Oh, I wonder where this is gonna go like an hour from now. Oh, I couldn't see this punchline coming.
Who's the father?
Both of you.
And then just like, they can't stage things well, they can't edit it very well, they can't direct it, because it was written, directed, and stars the CEO of the Daily Wire, and has basically no real actors in it. This is a sports movie, right? There is not a single scene that's about, wait, who's gonna win the big game? That doesn't happen. The basketball scenes are almost entirely like this. The lady ballers show up, they start a game against women, they spike a ball in their faces a couple of times, and then you cut to the scoreboard and it's 144-13. Like, that's it, over and over and over. No tension, no like, who's gonna win the game, or who's gonna like miss a shot and we'll lose, and oh, I don't know. Which again, you can't carry a plot based on that. There's no tension around it. So why do you care? And why do you keep watching for almost 2 hours? All right, so here's the plot. A high school basketball coach who used to win state championships. Now he's down on his luck. He's divorced. Kids these days won't be coached by him. They just look at their phones. And the black kid steals his catalytic converter. Okay, so comedy.
Please don't steal my catalytic converter again on your way out.
Yo, you can't talk to us like that.
Hey, buddy, you dropped your cordless reciprocating saw.
He loses his job because the kids these days.
It's racism, Rob. You can't tell a bunch of teenage boys not to steal.
It's literally in the Bible.
Which you also can't teach them.
So he gets a job as a drag waitress. It's the obvious next choice. He then gets the idea to become a winner again by getting together the high school boys team that were the state champs 15 years ago, now that they're 33-year-old losers, and then like having them pretend to be women so that they can compete against women, and it's in the global games, which is not the Olympics. I don't know what it is.
The global games. When I was a kid, you had to be an elite athlete just to try out for the games. Now they'll let any loser try.
I don't know what this global games is supposed to be. It doesn't seem like it's the Olympics. The name sounds like it, but then it's like they're just playing qualifying matches in their small town, wherever they're from. Like, they don't travel. They go to an empty gym to play some girl. Like, what is this? And they're like 30. Based on like how the film looks and how many extras they could afford, it seems like it's like a county-wide competition of 30-plus-year-olds. Like, this is the big sporting event. It's going to take the world by storm. And they're going to become famous, I guess.
It's ladies basketball, boys. Nobody watches.
And then a journalist lady who's like an evil, weird bondagey lady who has abortions a lot and thinks that's cool, says things like,
I'm a journalist. I literally cannot be shamed.
She's like egging him on so that she can be like, run the story and be like, get clicks. And then so that they can say that like the trans women are fierce.
I mean, as brave and beautiful as he is.
How dare you? Trans women are real women and thus have no innate differences with other women whatsoever. The only story here for which I fully intend to win a Pulitzer is that absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happened here tonight.
Like, I get it. You guys are like, aren't journalists stupid? Even though you guys are all like wannabe journalists that do opinion pieces and not real news. So like, she's clearly a parody of the liberal media, except the big story coming out of trans women in sports is the right throwing their giant shit fit about it. So anyway, his team of bro dudes he assembles and is like, all right, you're gonna pretend to be girls now. Here, put on a wig. And they're like, yeah, all right. So not trans women, pretend trans women.
Technical, and you shut the up, transphobic motherfucker.
They immediately get like super famous and get like millions of followers on social, like overnight, and then start getting like big endorsement deals because they're winning this county-wide global games that no one is attending. What? Is it the woke liberal media that's turning Leah Thomas into a giant media sensation? Is that how this is working?
Why do you always get to talk first?
I beg your pardon?
It's just evidence of systemic sexism and racism, Drake.
So anyway, the movie gets bored, and so it branches out into other sports that they are training for. It's just like, I don't know, here, also do swimming and powerlifting. and T-ball. And it's just an excuse for them to spike a volleyball in a girl's face, beat a girl at swimming, do T-ball stuff with little kids. So these 33-year-old dudes, like I understand, okay, they were a high school state championship team. So maybe if they're playing community college women's team, maybe they would beat them. They're not winning in the WNBA or the Olympics though. Like they get their asses kicked. And now it's like, hey, this dude is gonna go like not train at all and just like win a swimming meet against trained swimmers by like a minute. It's like, no, that's not. He would lose badly. I don't know. Like, this is like really dismissive of female athletes. So like even men who are like 33 and don't train in the sport at all can easily dominate a female swimmer. It's like, no.
Slay girl, you go girl.
Also, they seem to think wrestling doesn't have weight classes. I don't know, your trans weight, is that a joke? I don't know. It's all just an excuse to do this like slapstick and beat up girls. Like that's men in a dress, men in wigs is funny, and then beating up girls is funny. That'll make this movie fun for 2 hours, right? Well, then they sprinkle in some other stuff, keep you entertained, like, you know, Ted Cruz cameos.
Excuse me, are these seats open? Never mind.
All right, so we get to the big game at the end, all right? The big tense of the big game, except we can't do tense games at all. But hey, maybe, because they run into another team of men pretending to be trans women. And so it's just two teams of men against each other. And so now it's a fair fight. Nope, because this other team is really good at basketball. That means they're black. So they're just like, oh, we're just gonna get our asses kicked. Not even worth trying. So then the big brain moment, he subs in actual little girls, and there's a poignant moment where we're learning. It's one thing to be a stupid man and just like beat up on women and like spike balls in their faces. But it's another if it's like a little 8-year-old girl, you're really gonna like spike it in her face. And so the big bad black guy is like, here, little girl, have the ball. You can just have it. And so it's like, oh, what a big brain moment. Maybe the girls team will win. And then it cuts to the scoreboard and it's like the black team won 144-2. Again, it's a sports movie that never has a tense sports moment.
Final score, 418-6.
To be fair, at the very beginning, they're losing. This is the high school team in high school in like flashback. And then they go to the locker room and the main character gives an inspirational speech and then they come back to win, except we don't see that because that's just the credits. It's like, oh, they win over the credits. So like, even that's not tense.
For those willing to risk it all, that history might remember their names. Remember their struggles.
Remember their struggles.
Now, maybe you want to say, you know, that's the point, that it's not a fair competition, so we shouldn't have tense because it's just such an unfair competition. Except the final match is not women, it's just fake trans women against other fake trans, it's just men versus men. So that could be a fair fight, and but no, I couldn't figure that out. Maybe you do hormone testing, right? And then you have the team taking hormones and then they're growing boobs. That could be funny. And then maybe they start, and then you'd be like, oh, we'd be rooting for the cis women to beat them, right? So maybe that we could have some sort of rooting interest, but like that goes against their ideological thing. They don't want to show they're like taking hormones. I mean, the screenwriters can't find their way out of a paper bag to figure out sports movies. Sometimes should have a closed game in them. So, but hey, you'll be entertained because Matt Walsh is a parody of liberals and he eats bugs. He loves vaccines.
I see you.
And then the main character is making jokes about how people are wearing masks, and that's dumb. While he's like literally blasting this lady with smoke from his coal rolling catalytic converterless car because a black kid stole his catalytic converter. This is comedy.
Mr. Gibson.
What's that?
It's the fourth time.
It's the obedience trap, lady. I can't hear anything through it. You gotta speak up.
One of the characters was a failed actor, and then he's complaining that like white men can't make it in Hollywood. They don't cast white men anymore. It's like, oh my God, white dudes have it so hard. Am I right? Also, like just men in general have it so hard. Am I right?
When's the last time you felt like someone?
At one point, like what makes a woman? Like what makes you a woman?
And don't be afraid to cry at work.
All right. It was like the key ingredient to how to be a woman What a joke. I think there are a lot of women who are afraid to cry at work because they'll get judged by assholes like you. We care about the sanctity of women's sports. We're protecting girls. But then the movie is just like, well, but women suck at sports and men are better at basically everything. And he has a scene where his 8-year-old daughter is like, I want to be a man. He's like, no. Just because I said men are better in every way doesn't mean you should want to be a man because women are good. And she's like, well, what are women good at? And he's like, well.
And they civilize men.
That's what this film says women are good for, is they civilize men. Like, oh my God. Jesus Christ. They just don't even respect women. Like, this isn't the like, hey, women, get back in the kitchen realm. Like, this is how you know they don't really care about women's sports. They're always trying to dunk on like the women's national soccer team, whatever. Like, they hate them and they hate lesbians. And then several times through it, they cut to like the news covering, oh, they're so brave and amazing. Because that's what the liberal media does, is constantly talk about how great the trans women athletes are. I wouldn't know about Leah Thomas if it weren't for the conservative media making a huge ass deal about it, but okay.
Stacy Santiago O'Brien is my slave name.
Okay.
So they cut to the news all the time, and it's just Daily Wire people playing fake news people, and it's really funny. Just imagine like if Rachel Maddow was dressed up as like a Trumper and doing bits about like January 6th was actually peaceful and the media lied about it. And they weren't really violent, but also it was Antifa. Does some coal rolling in front of a Planned Parenthood. The film stops for like 20 seconds to just do a commercial for the razors that the Daily Wire sells. It's full of product placement. Not as bad as Haunted Mansion, but it's full of product placement, little billboardy things. The main character, Jeremy Boering, plays. His character is basically just like, he gives inspirational speeches and then the camera swoops, does a lot of swooping. Like, this is the only thing he knows how to do as a director, is flat shot, and then when an inspirational speech happens, you do 40 swoopy shots around the inspiring speaker.
Men are faster, stronger, meaner. The entire reason we created women's sports was to keep you out. Soon, all the best women will be men. Cheating, lowlife men.
So the movie like almost becomes a movie at one point when they have an arc. They give a character an arc, which is that one of the bro dudes that's on the team pretending to be a trans woman. Coach is like, here, put on a wig and we're gonna go compete. He's like, I don't know about that. Spends a while as a fake trans woman and discovers, you know what? I think I really am a trans woman. Like, I feel more comfortable like this. I want to stay like this. And then the main character says, yeah, but you're not a real woman.
How can you be so sure I'm not a woman?
See, isn't that funny? Punching a trans woman in the balls? Because punching a woman in the crotch would never be painful, right, Jennifer Lawrence?
What are you talking about?
So basically, South Park did it better 20 years ago in 20 minutes. And this is like if Cartman wrote a movie, like punching down the whole time, just being an unsubtle bully.
Seriously? Like, really?
So who made this crap? Well, Jeremy Boering, CEO of the Daily Wire, wrote, directed, starred. Who's this guy? Well, he's a failed screenwriter director who turned to producing videos for PragerU, which you don't know. It's a right-wing bullshit factory that makes educational videos for children. They do this like cartoony style, and it looks like edutainment for kids. That was his idea, the like cartoony element. You know, stuff like how climate change isn't real, the Bible's literally true, Jesus wasn't a socialist, but a free market capitalist. That's the Jesus I know. Evolution isn't real, and you shouldn't pull down Robert E. Lee statues because he was a super cool guy, you know, things like that.
The crisis is related to climate change, but not in the way you're probably thinking. It's the global energy crisis, a man-made crisis created by climate change policies.
Yet despite dramatic headlines, apocalyptic documentaries, and annual climate summits, carbon emissions continue to rise. Alarmism has encouraged the pursuit of a one-sided climate policy of trying to cut carbon emissions by subsidizing wind farms and solar panels. For at least the next 2 decades, solar and wind energy are simply expensive, feel-good measures that will have an imperceptible climate impact.
Colleges have become leftist indoctrination centers.
The world faces a serious crisis, one that will ruin whole economies and lead to needless suffering and death.
Mainstream American news is all fake
because the major news outlets are so consistently biased toward the left that whether any given story they report is factual or not, their overall reportage is essentially leftist propaganda.
Jesus never endorsed the forced redistribution of wealth. That idea is rooted in envy, something that he and the 10th of the 10 Commandments railed against. He never would have approved anything that undermines wealth creation. And the only thing that has ever created wealth and lifted masses of people out of poverty is free market capitalism.
Oh, and apparently, Mr. Boring wants to say the N-word a lot, but those damn liberals just won't let us say the N-word because it's just craziness.
So a lot of people will say, well, I have to be anonymous on the internet because if my boss finds out that I've got these views, they'll fire me. If 5 million people came out today and said the N-word, no one would ever get fired for saying the N-word again. Like
yeah, they wouldn't be able to.
You wouldn't be able to. You would have brought that to a conclusion. That little absurdity in our culture would be brought to an end.
So Juwanna Mann, Jeremy Boering, writer, director, star of the film, said as this movie's coming out that he didn't know that Juwanna Mann existed and he'd never heard of it. Like, imagine setting out to write, direct, and star in a film about men competing in women's basketball and you never ran into this, you never researched it, nobody mentioned it to you. Juwanna Google much? That's maybe the most shocking thing about this. Like, no one on the crew is like, oh, is this like Juwanna Mann? Like, no one mentioned this to you? Are you serious?
So it turns out that there was a movie 20 years ago called Juwanna Mann.
Right.
Which I learned about yesterday.
Yeah, and I knew that it was there, but it had not occurred to me that people would see the similarity.
So I watched Juwanna Mann. I'd never seen it. I had 3 main takeaways. 1, it's not funny either. Slightly funnier. I got a couple chuckles. It looks a lot better. Like after watching this, then watching Juwanna Mann, I was like, oh, this is like actual sports scenes. Like, oh, you can actually illustrate like sports in action. You can do that. It's not just like intense close up. No one in the stands. So it was like, oh, this looks decent. I think Lady Ballers is probably the worst sports movie in terms of like directing and cinematography I've ever seen. Like, it's terrible. Juwanna Mann looks so much better. Its budget was $15 million. So like, if you go, okay, it looks that good for $15 million, how much did this movie cost? I would say like $1 million. Apparently they spent $7 million on this. I don't know what you spent that on, considering you didn't hire real actors. So
Turns out white male of non-exotic sexuality is the only ethnic group not being cast by Hollywood these days.
Juwanna Mann also has a bunch of stupid cameos in it too, but this time it's like Lil' Kim and Genuine, and like there's like rappers and okay. And it's more serious and less slapstick. Like, it has a heart. They develop characters, and then you see them as more like people and 3D characters, unlike Lady Ballers. Like many comedies, essentially the structure is there the same as a drama. You just like make jokes during it. It's like if you build a house, all right? Juwanna Mann is a house, not a great one, but a house with like some goofy wallpaper once in a while. Lady Ballers is a pile of silly wallpaper pretending to be a house. The other surprise, I turned on Juwanna Mann, I was like, oh, this is what scenes are. That's right. Tension, setup, payoff. Like these are scenes. Oh, okay. And so in Juwanna Mann, the love interest, Vivica A. Fox, like lady on the team he's on, right? So he's into this lady, but he's pretending to be a woman, and she thinks he's a woman, but he's trying to get with her, but also like he has a secret, and he's just trying to walk the line of like, well, reveal to her that I'm actually a man without her getting pissed at him. Maybe I'll get discovered. At any moment, he might just get discovered, and then that, so there's tension there. Set up and payoff, people. Like, oh my God, this movie doesn't know how to do any of those things. Also, I watched Juwanna Mann, and then like hours later, Draymond Green got suspended indefinitely. Is this the worst cast credit list screenshot of all time? I don't know. Like, imagine the left version of this, where you have like a movie with Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell and Keith Olbermann acting, where they play like Ohio Republican little girl genital inspectors to protect the sanctity of 6-year-old girls soccer. Now that's a comedy.
What are you talking about?
I didn't even want to cover this movie. My plan was to watch this movie, and then when I do a year-end wrap-up video, just mention it, be like, oh, I saw Lady Ballers, it wasn't funny. But someone was wrong on the internet, and I had to write paragraphs about it. So here we are.
Barack Obama destroyed 3 things: rock and roll, comedy, and America. That was the...
All right, that's the end of the fun section. Now we have to talk about trans stuff. In one of the Fresh reviews, Benjamin Franz, that's the guy who likes everything, right? He wrote, quote, "Still, I for one am glad Riley Gaines got to have a cameo in this as a swimmer bested by one of these alleged trans women, paralleling her defeat swimming against Leah Thomas. The particularly masculine form of Leah Thomas grates on me that this person who would otherwise be a mediocre male swimmer bests every great female swimmer and gets away with it." So there's also ideological bullshit behind this positive review. All right. And it's also factually incorrect. So Leah Thomas, yes, trans woman, won a national championship in one swimming event. Keep in mind, there's like 400 swimming events because there's the 50, the 100, the 200, this stroke and that stroke. And what if you do it blindfolded? I don't know. There's a million strokes. I don't know how many golds do they give out in swimming, because Michael Phelps has like 400 golds. Anyway, there's a million events. Leah Thomas won the national championship, NCAA, in one of those. Does it sound like she's dominating all of the women? She only qualified at nationals in 4 events, which was the 50, the 100, the 200, and the 500 freestyle. In the 50, she didn't make it out of the preliminaries. In the 100, she got 8th in the finals. In the 200, she got 5th in the finals. And in the 500, she won. Okay, she won one of the events. So if you look up, where is she ranked among female American swimmers? You would think, based on the fact that she's dominating, just besting every great female swimmer, that she'd be what, number 1, maybe like top 4. She's ranked 44th. Why is this such a big fucking deal? Does that sound like domination and utterly besting every other female swimmer? Y'all make it sound like she showed up and like Phelpsed all over the place, which is where you do a sick bong rip and then stay underwater for 40 minutes. And find a bunch of gold at the bottom of the pool, and that's how you win a gold medal, I think. Riley Gaines is the woman who's become the poster child of a trans woman beat me and I'm super mad about it. So, based on that premise and the fact she's all over the fucking place, oh my god, she's the one who lost. You would think that she was gonna get like 5 golds and then got like 5 silvers, right? Or at least she was gonna get 1 gold and got a silver instead because this man who didn't belong there came in, right? So Riley's best placement across all the events in this tournament is she got 5th in the 200 freestyle. That's it. She wasn't gonna get any gold, bronze, silver, and I don't know if they give out medals, I think they give out trophies, it doesn't matter. So even if Leah Thomas didn't exist, Riley would have gotten, checks notes, 5th place. But Leah was there, being an evil man, trans woman. So instead, Riley Gaines was oppressed, and she instead got, checks notes, 5th place, tied for 5th. Oh my God, we should send her to Congress to talk about how all her glory was stolen.
My story is by now well known. It was clear to me, my teammates, and my competitors that they had reduced everything we had worked our entire lives for down to a photo op.
Where she tied with transgender swimmer Leah Thomas in the NCAA championships.
Does anyone else think that sounds like they're saying they tied for like first? Tied for the gold? Does anyone else think that? They tied for 5th. Fuck off, 4 women beat you. Like the only person that should be this is the lady who got 2nd in the 500 free. Okay, whatever. So then they give Riley Gaines a cameo in this film where she's swimming. She gets to the end and is like, did I win? And then so this 33-year-old dude who's not trained in swimming at all can just like show up and beat her by like 30 seconds. Meanwhile, in real life, Leah Thomas and her tied exactly to the like 1,000th of a second. The film also shows that like trans women just immediately become this like media sensation. They get millions of followers overnight. They get endorsement deals.
Day 3 of being a girl athlete, I already have 2 million followers. Like and subscribe, bitch.
So it's like it's a grift, right? Just like pretend to be a trans woman. Everyone says you're brave and fierce. You become a sensation. So let's check. Let's see. How many followers does Leah Thomas have on, let's say, maybe Instagram? Leah Thomas is the biggest example. Like, is the highest achieving trans woman in sports that we've seen. This is the example that's always cited. How does she have a lot of big endorsements? Has she got a huge social media following? Who's talking about her all the fucking time? The left? Is it the left-wing media pushing something? Or is it the right? How about this? How about this for a grift? Be a woman. Lose to a trans woman, or tie with them, I guess, then complain to every fucking microphone you can find, and then go on Fox News, and then go to congressional hearings, and then, I don't know, endorse Ron DeSantis. Like, talking about endorsement deals, look at this.
Riley Gaines talked about her story of competing against transgender athlete Leah Thomas.
Riley, it's always great to have you on. I know this is not your subject of choice, but I just wanted to get your quick take on the Target story.
I mean, even if you look at the children's clothes in Target, they're targeting children.
Calling to define a person's sex as the sex that they are at birth. And it's getting support from former All-American swimmer Riley Gaines. Here she is on the Hill this week. Riley Gaines joins us now. Riley, good to have you with us today. Thank you very much. Tell me,
Look at me. I'm much bigger and much stronger than her. There's no way she could beat me in swimming. Do we all agree?
And the film shows these like evil abortion-having journalists as being the one that's shamelessly exploiting the situation to turn trans women into brave heroes.
The only story here for which I fully intend to win a Pulitzer is that absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happened here tonight.
Yeah, it seems to me that I wouldn't have even heard of Leah Thomas unless the right had turned her into a giant shameless story or promoted Riley Gaines to talk about it all the time. Like, the right loves their bullshit overblown story, like Monica Lewinsky and Hillary's emails and Hunter Biden's dick pics. OMG, a blonde girl lost to a trans woman. You know what we should do? Let's make a movie about it. Because this is the biggest issue of our time, right? Not that. This isn't a big deal. Who cares about this kind of stuff? That's fake news. But girls swimming, one of her big complaints, Riley's, is that she was forced to use the same locker room as Leah Thomas, a man with a penis that was there, and we have to protect our girls. Is the complaint that you don't want a penis? You don't want to see a penis in the locker room? Because I hate to break it to you, I don't want to see other penises in the locker room either. So is it that you don't want anyone who's sexually attracted to you to be in the locker room? You don't want to be oogled or ogled? Do you think lesbians don't exist? Do straight women only locker room? And then like lesbian women, they have to be broken up because they all look at each other. So does a lesbian woman not get the privilege of not being ogled? Do they get their own? Or you can keep one lesbian and one gay dude, but you can't put two gay dudes in there, right? Because then they'd look at each other. So one gay dude who wants to look at men, one lesbian who wants to look at women, they don't want to see each other. But now we are making a woman look at a penis. Oh my God. What about bisexuals? They gotta be on their own. Like, are locker rooms really that erotic? Are they like orgy saunas? Is there a dude to wipe down the loads? What's going on in these fucking locker rooms? What if there's a gay man in the locker room? Try and look at like my sweet cheeks. I don't want that, but you're okay with that? Because we only need to protect women, is that it? Like, we're just straight women are the only ones that need protecting. Therefore, kick out the lesbians, maybe? I don't know. I don't want to ask Riley Gaines too many questions. I don't think the real issue is trans women, or straight men, or gay men, or lesbians. The issue is creeps. And creeps come in all shapes and sizes and genders. Any kind of person can be a creep. Trust me. And for all the hand-wringing about bathrooms and locker rooms, you know who abuses children? Who does this kind of shit? Who's creepy? More than trans women or drag queens? It's the clergy. So for all those people writing bathroom bills and shit, how about no male priests allowed in bathrooms where there's minors? We don't want to do that? No, it's not really about protecting children. It's about bullying trans people.
We just need to bring back bullying.
It's about bullying people who are different than you. All right, conservatives, let's actually talk about trans issues. I know you've been told transgenderism is a mental illness. It's just men who are delusional and deranged who just think they're women, or they're men who are just pretending so that they can win at sports or creep around women's locker rooms, and that there's only two genders. Let me ask you, how do you define male and female? Because you might say genitals, right? But guess what? There's not just two ways genitals can manifest. There are people who were born like this. Outwardly, lady parts. Inside, no ovaries, testes. Is that a man or a woman? You have to pick one. There's no gray area allowed. Black and white. Is that a man or a woman? Pick. The opposite also exists. Outwardly seem quite male, inside ovaries. That's called 46XX hermaphroditism. The first one is 46XY hermaphroditism. So if you're defining gender based on the parts, well, there's not just two sets of parts. Also, some women have giant clits. Is that a penis? What is that? I don't know. So you might go, okay, well, what about genetics? Chromosome, XX, XY, there you go. How about Klinefelter syndrome? That's where you're born with XXY. Is that a man or a woman? They got 2 X chromosomes, that's a woman. They got an X and a Y, that's a man. They got both. It's a gray area. Pick a box, you gotta put it in there. They're just born. And the difference between ending up a 5'6" baby face, I'm not 5'6", or a 6'8" bald covered in chest hair man could just be hormones or a tumor on a gland and not the genes. So if gender is the result of a complex interaction between genetics and hormones in development, then I think you need to agree that it's not just black and white, that there's some gray in the middle. If you don't agree, well, facts don't care about your feelings. Sorry, because Klinefelter syndrome exists. Okay. I say let that person decide for themselves, rather than the doctor that checked a box when they were born. You guys like freedom, right? No, you don't like freedom? You just say you like freedom? Okay. And if you accept that between genetics and hormones and how genitals form and so on, that there is some gray area, there's some wiggle room between the genders, and I think you can also see how it's possible that there's a gray area for brain development and brain chemistry and psychology. Something where there's not a smoking gun. Can it then be that brain development, influenced by hormones and epigenetics and all these things, could develop in such a way to cause a gray area in the gray matter? Okay. That doesn't come along with such smoking gun. It doesn't come along with a vulva with testicles. Not something we can easily measure. It's not like you can do an MRI and see it. So then we're in a position where a person says they feel a way. Who are you to tell them that they're wrong about their own feelings? And that's why eventually we get down the line to say like, well, you could have these parts but still be trans, because we can't measure the brain well enough to say anything else, really. But let's for a moment just limit it to something where there is a smoking gun, like Klinefelter syndrome, 46XX hermaphroditism. Okay, clear? Smoking gun, transgender. Can we agree that those exist? Puberty's fucking weird enough as it is for the normal. Now imagine that you get to puberty and you're just getting more and more different than everyone else. A girl I knew in high school, she was a teammate of mine, and I'm not revealing anything private. They did an article about her in like the yearbook, I think. So this isn't any secret information. She was waiting around for a period and waiting around, and other girls are flowering into womanhood, gross. And she still hasn't gotten hers, so parents took her to the doctor and discovered at like, I don't know, age 15, she doesn't have any ovaries. So like, hey, 15-year-old girl, I know we've been telling you your whole life that like, hey, grow up and get married and have children. Just kidding. Also, the hormones probably aren't the same as they were for the normal girls. Like, this is something to find out when you're 15. So I would say maybe for this person, we shouldn't like bug the fuck out of her and remind her constantly that she's not normal every time she wants to take a dump at Target. Oh no, actually you're not allowed on the girls' volleyball team, even though you're not even good at it, even though it's like, who gives a fuck about this high school volleyball game, whatever. Oh, and by the way, your normal daughter, some Karen, her daughter lost to your daughter, and now she's mad, and so she's putting in a protest, and now we need a government-sponsored inspection of your daughter's genitals to prove she's a real girl? Is this what you guys want? You really want that? Let the fucking trans kid go 40 minutes without being reminded they're not normal. And just because you're a creep who thinks that you would have transitioned just so that you could have creeped on girls in high school in the showers or whatever, first off, you wouldn't. You fucking boomer.
Okay, boomer.
The boomers that are like, oh yeah, I'd have like creeped on so many girls in the shower. No, you wouldn't, because real life isn't fucking Porky's, and you would have been bullied endlessly all the time and beat up and maybe murdered just so you could have seen some girl's boobies in the shower being a creep and stuff, instead of buying a Playboy? Really? Also, conservatives, with all your hate for porn, and it's so pervasive, there's so much fucking porn. If there's so much porn and it's so easy to get at, why are you worried about people pretending to be trans to go look at boobies? Like, are the kids these days lazy or not? All right, pick a lane. And if you want to be all like, but my daughter would have gotten a scholarship, I don't care about that either. Personally, I don't think athletic scholarships should exist. You get free college because you're good at running hurdles or volleyball. Why the fuck does that matter? College should be free anyway. All right. Stop mixing minor league sports with college. The whole point of athletics in school is to give students an outlet for being on a team, making friends, learning sportsmanship, getting inspirational speeches from CEOs, you know, stuff like that.
Winners are just losers who win. Winners are just losers.
Exercise. But now let's not let any of the students that are normally here pick up the sport. Instead, we're gonna bring in ringers that are great at that sport, and then the actual students are just like spectators? The fuck are we doing? The absurdity of this in college, like where we're used to college athletics, let's expand it to like elementary school. Imagine when you're in elementary school, when you were at recess and you're wanting to play kickball. That was fun, right? No, you don't get to do that because we brought in a special kickball team. So now at recess, you watch these kids we bus in from across the city. They're probably black. And they do good at kickball and you just watch them. That's what you get to do. Like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. How is this good for students? It's good for the ringer students you bring in. Why are we doing that? Just take all the athletic scholarship money and just make it scholarships for being good at school. What are we doing? We're telling kids in high school, like, try hard at sports, because that's what's really important, not the school stuff. You got to get that education, which also you're going to be too busy to like go to class or whatever. All that to say, fundamentally, I agree with the premise of the film. People with a real biological advantage over cis women shouldn't get to compete in meaningful women's sports. So you can't say that I'm super woke, amazing, far left liberal that can't stand the message of the film. It's the main point of the film and I agree with it. Now I get to play everyone's favorite person, the enlightened centrist. I don't go along with the really super woke let trans women compete in any sport with no restrictions whatsoever. I think if we're doing gender-based discrimination to split up a sport, I think it's a gray area, and where do you draw the line exactly is, that's a conversation we can have. Like, do you have to have the hormone therapy for this long, or is it just because you grew up with male hormones and you grew longer arms and makes you an unfair advantage of swimming? There's gray areas that we can talk about. I'm not an absolutist on one side or the other. This movie is about how insane the left is, how unhinged they are, and how dug in they are on ideas on trans people and trans rights.
Bug-based foods, mRNA vaccines, equitable and inclusive hiking.
How dare you? Trans women are real women, and thus have no innate differences with other women.
Girls don't have beards, right?
Lots of girls have beards, Daddy. Nihilist college professors have already convinced every self-righteous housewife with Munchausen by proxy to sacrifice their kids on the altar of false virtue.
You know which side is really, really dug in on their extreme side? That's right. Now the turntables. Because this film is not about, hey, trans women shouldn't be in the Olympics. That's not what it's about. This is a movie about a bunch of cis men pretending to be trans to beat up women. And Ben Shapiro wanted to make it a documentary where they just took dudes and had them claim to be trans and go make their absurd documentary, and then discovered they can't do that, thus disproving their own premise.
They won't score more than 2 points.
Again, I'll make that documentary tomorrow. I'll be honest with you, I didn't do the personal research to actually find the leagues that'll allow you guys to play. But if those leagues exist, and I assume that they must, if they are ideologically correct. I mean, if they're ideologically correct, I have a question if they're not ideologically correct. I'm amazed by all these leftists who are like, Shapiro is undermining the premise of the film. No, you're undermining the premise of your own ideology, because your entire premise is that men can be women without hormone treatments.
The film also shows basically everyone, except for a few main characters. Everyone else is 110% super fucking woke liberal. Like, these women are brave and fierce, and if you aren't 100% behind them, then you're gonna immediately get canceled. And that's why we need this movie. Like, liberals have gone insane when that's just not the case. Exhibit A, hi, me, liberal, Democrat, socialist, professor, atheist, who's like, hey, in middle school, leave the fucking trans kid alone, but maybe don't let the trans women dominate the Olympics, which they're not doing anyway. The Biden administration recently proposed new rules, basically what I just said. AOC called it embarrassing, and a trans woman podcaster said, quote, I can't read this any other way than a betrayal. See, far left did not like it and suggested it creates a blueprint for how to discriminate against trans people. So if the far left hated it, because it's a betrayal and laying out how to discriminate against trans athletes, and it can keep trans athletes from dominating women's sports, the Biden administration must have gotten canceled, right? Well, at least the right wing must have at least been like, oh, okay, Biden did an okay thing. Maybe he didn't go far enough, but he did an okay thing. The Alabama Attorney General said, quote, I have made myself abundantly clear to the Biden administration that he will not impose his radical policies on Alabama. Quote, South Dakota will not let this stand, Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota X'd on X. So Biden and the more mainstream Democrats finding a middle ground makes perfect sense, that I think. And you know what the right is doing? Trying to pass laws in red states, making it so that your little girl might be subject to a government-mandated pelvic examination. Yes, the left are the ones that are so unhinged, because check notes, a single trans woman won a national championship in one of like 50 million swimming events. And the NCAA already passed new restrictions preventing that. Yes, that one big example, Leah Thomas. The NCAA already made a new rule that trans women athletes have to prove that they've had hormones under a certain level for 36 straight months. So now you might say, even with hormones under a thing, whatever, growing up with male genetics and hormones, whatever, gives an advantage anyway, because she's like taller, longer arms, okay. Well, LeBron James is better than me at basketball because he's taller than me, right? So is that fair? Maybe, you know, maybe make a league where you had to be a short white guy, right? Where's my glory? So if you want to say, okay, the rule doesn't go far enough, maybe it's 48 months, or maybe we could measure their arm lengths and go, oh, she's just out of proportion and can't compete. All right, whatever. This is a gray area, right? And we can argue about where do you draw the line. Black and white, there's a clear line. Big gray area, is the line here, or is it here, or is it here? We can talk about why we would put it in here somewhere, okay. But if you then say, and that's why we need to inspect the genitals of elementary school girls to protect the sanctity of little girls' soccer teams, it turns out you're the ones that are more unhinged than the radical left. Now, to be fair to you, if you're not all the way an unhinged right-winger and you're still watching this, which you're not, let's face it, you might say, but I'm not in favor of pelvic exams for little girls. Don't judge me based on what a few of the most extreme on my side do, because I'm not that extreme. Don't judge me for the extreme ones. And that's the point, people, because the entire movie is about judging everyone based on the very extreme far left, who are against any restrictions at all, is acting like everyone slightly left of center is an unhinged radical leftist who eats bugs.
We are punching up. The entire culture is promulgating this lie.
But the right is doing this, okay? In Ohio, the GOP pushed forth Substitute House Bill 151, which said, if a participant's sex is disputed, the participant shall establish their sex by presenting a signed physician statement indicating the participant's sex based upon the following: internal and external reproductive anatomy. Oh, but that's not a big deal because men get prostate exams too, right? So that's fair. Okay.
What AOC is trying to do is she's trying to say something shocking, which is nonsensical. Physical exams are a normal thing for all human beings. Thank you and have a nice day. We are talking about opening up all women and girls to getting physical examinations when they're underage. Potentially just because someone can point to them and say, I don't think you're a girl. I've had to get numerous physicals throughout my life. Should I be angry about it? Men should get prostate exams? Is it shocking and offensive that because these things exist, humans have to undergo physical examinations by doctors? What a disgusting people. I'm sorry. Democrats are evil.
Now, there was a backlash in this bill, okay? It was written, it was proposed, it was added. They had to vote to add it to the bill. That's when the backlash happens. So it's not in the final bill that they then pass, right? But they did try, and they wrote it, and they did all this shit. So don't act like Republicans aren't trying to do this. And let's see the Daily Wire condemn it. Oh, they don't? Oh, okay. Oh, so when this bitch is adding stuff to bills, and the Republicans are really quiet, and the Democrats are trying to stop her, the Daily Wire's like, look at all the unhinged, whining, triggered Dems. So are you with me just a tiny bit? You with me on this? If your daughter's team wins, and some Karen mom on the other side is like, your daughter's not a real woman, and now your daughter has to go get a pelvic exam. If you're with me that that's bad, you're a lib cuck Biden bootlicker and an extreme lefty, because you don't agree with the Daily Wire. Once you go anywhere down the line, from transgenderism is not real, you're now a lefty. Quote, Republicans, including Rep. Jenna Powell, who introduced the amendment to ban transgender athletes from women's sports to an unrelated bill, argued that the legislation is for fair competition. All these girls ask for is a fair shot and to be given the chance to play and win by the rules in the sports that they love, Powell said. Quote, the opportunity is being ripped from them by biological males. She also refuses to use the term trans woman. You'll notice she keeps saying biological male. Another thing the right likes to do. Another thing that this movie encapsulates. See, it's not about the sanctity of women's sports. Sure, maybe you care a little, but what is this really about? Because if all it was giving cis women opportunities, and we had a nice little discussion about when and how to draw some lines and some gray areas, okay, that's fine. But instead, the right and this film are denying the existence of trans women, making jokes about dead naming, pretending science is on their side.
The problem with transgenderism is that it isn't true. The problem with transgenderism is that its acceptance at any level necessarily entails the complete destruction of women's bathrooms, women's sports, all of the specific rights and spaces that women currently enjoy. There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing.
Okay. And a lot of the bills say gender assigned at birth, which once again, Klinefelter syndrome, hermaphroditism, where someone is born and then fundamentally they're not male, female, it's a gray area. Guess which gender they're assigned at birth? I don't know, flip a coin. Doctors and parents are just like, female, and then we cut some shit off and say that's a girl now. Things like that. And I say, maybe the doctors and the parents got that wrong. And then when that person is old enough and says, you know what, I feel like this or I feel like that, and I want to present that way, I'd rather you not harass them when they try to take a shit at Walmart or inspect the genitals if they want to play 4th grade tennis. And in this movie, acting like they must be a pervert who's trying to pretend to be a woman so they can creep on them in the shower. This is bullying of like some of our most vulnerable people. And the right likes to point to the high suicide rate among trans people as proof that transgender is mental illness. It's like, look, how many of them kill themselves, right? That's proof that they're mentally ill. So let's try an experiment. Anybody want to do this with me? Let's get a huge portion of the population to start bullying the fuck out of anyone who subscribes to the Daily Wire Plus. Just bully the fuck out of them constantly. Let's start passing bills all the time. Let's make fun of them all the time. Let's make movies that make them into punchlines, not for the dumb shit they do or the stupid things they do on the internet, but just for who they are, for existing. When they're in high school, let's ostracize them, make them feel very fucking different all the fucking time. And then let's check back in a few years and see how high the suicide rate is for Daily Wire subscribers. Or, to be honest, the murder-suicide rate.
That's your play of the day.
I see you.
Please don't steal my catalytic converter again on your way out.
Technical, and you shut the f up, transphobic motherfucker.
Like and subscribe, bitch.
They won't score more than 2 points.